In the previous part, we have seen the memory system. We have seen the basic static memory and the dynamic memory. In this session, we will be discussing about the asynchronous DRAMs, the synchronous DRAMs, and about read-only memories. So let's start with the asynchronous DRAM. Let's take an example. You are going to construct a 16 megabit DRAM. Now in the diagram you can see a cell array, which is a 16 megabit DRAM cell array, and you are having a row decoder and a column decoder. So you are having a row address latch which holds the row address, and you are having the corresponding row decoder that decodes the row. Similarly, you are having a column address latch which holds the column address, and using the column decoder you will be decoding the corresponding column. So you have decoded the corresponding row and the corresponding column, and using the sense write circuit you will be reading the data from the memory as well as writing the data to the memory. And you can see at the bottom of the column decoder you are having the D7 to D0. That's the place from where you will be reading the data. You will be getting the read data as well as you will be giving the data that has to be written to the memory. Now in this example we are using a 16 megabit DRAM, and let's see how to construct or make this particular cell array. Now our requirement is to make a 16 megabit DRAM. So 16 megabit DRAM can be written as 2 megabytes, that is 2 mega locations, and in each locations you are having a byte of data or 8 bits of data. So in general you can say that 16 megabit DRAM is a 2 megabyte DRAM. So you are having 2 M locations, 2 mega locations. So if you are going to construct the DRAM in the same way, you are going to have 2 mega rows, and in each row you are having 8 bits of data, and that will be physically a very narrow memory that is not easy to be constructed. So what we are going to do is that we are going to have an alternate configuration. The 16 megabits can be written as 4K into 4K, that is 4096 into 4096. Okay, so in this case you are going to convert this requirement into a square structure, 4K into 4K. Now you take the first 4K, that is 4096 rows, and in each row you are going to have 4096 cells. Okay. And this 4096 cells is being divided into different groups. Now take 4096 and divide by 8, you will be getting 512 groups. So you are having 4096 rows. In each row you are having 4096 columns, and this row is being divided into 512 groups, and in each group you are going to have 8 cells. Okay. Now in order to decode this 4096 rows you are going to have 12 address lines, that is A20 to A9, and this 512 groups, in order to represent 512 groups you need to have 4 address lines. So that is the column address A8 to A0. Now you can see the diagram, the first example. Now you are going to have the cell array, a square structure, 4096 rows and 4096 columns. And what happened over here is that you are having each row, you take each row, and this row is being divided into 512 groups. In each group you are going to have 8 bits, that is 1 byte of data. Okay, so you will be giving the corresponding address A20 to A0. A20 to A9 will be the row address. It will be given to the row address decoder. It decodes the row address, and A8 to A0 is the column address. Using the column address decoder, it selects the corresponding group. Okay, now a particular row, and from that particular row a particular group, and in that group you have accessed 8 bits of data, that is 1 byte of data. You can write into the memory or you can read from the memory using the sense and write circuits. And you can see the control signals. You are having CS, which is the chip select, and you are having read or write operation. Okay, and you can see the control signals RIS bar and CAS bar, which are basically the row address select as well as column address select. Now we will see one more example. Now you are going to make a DRAM which is having 256 megabits of data. Now let's see how to make the alternate configuration. Now our requirement is to make a 256 megabits of DRAM. So this 256 megabits can be written as 32 megabytes. So you are supposed to have 32 locations, and since we want to have an square structure, a physical structure, you are going to make it as 16k into 16k. So 16k rows and 16k columns. Okay. Now if you take each row, you are having 16k rows. In each row you are going to have 16k memory cells, and you are going to group it. You divide it by 8, you will be getting 2048. Now in each row you are going to have 2048 groups. In each group you are having 8 bits of data or a byte of data. Okay. Now you can see that in order to represent the 16k rows, you need to have 14 address lines, which is the row address. In order to represent this 2048 groups, that is the column, you want to have 11 addresses. So altogether you are having 25 address lines. Now we will see the example again. So the same structure which we have seen initially, using the addresses A24 to A11, you will be selecting the row. Using the addresses A10 to A0, you will be selecting the corresponding column. So you have selected a row, you have selected a column. So that column address points to a particular group, and in that group you will be having a byte or 8 bits of data. You can have a single byte or consider as a 8 bit of data. You can write as well as read to that particular address. Now coming to the synchronous DRAM. In the synchronous DRAM you are having the same structure as the asynchronous DRAM. What you are going to have extra over here is that you are going to have a synchronization signal, that is a clock signal. This clock signal synchronizes everything. All the operations are directly synchronized with a clock signal. The cell array concept is same as the asynchronous DRAM concept. Okay, so this clock signal is being given to the mode register and the timing control. So this register and the timing control, based on the clock, will generate the control signals required for the synchronous DRAM operation. Now we will see few terms associated with the memory. The term latency, what it means is the amount of time taken to transfer a byte of data to or from the memory. Now coming to the block transfer, the latency in block transfer means the time taken to transfer the first word of data after the row address has been applied. Now coming to the bandwidth, what it means by memory bandwidth is the number of bits or bytes that can be transferred in 1 second. Coming to the double data rate SDRAM, it is the DDRM. So in this case, for the DDRM, the data transfer happens in both the edges of the clock. So the advantage over here is that the bandwidth is doubled, but the latency remains the same. Now we will see the structure of making large memories. So suppose our requirement to have a very big memory, and suppose we are not having a provision to fabricate that size memory. Using small memory blocks, the available memory blocks, we will be considering the large memory. Now let's take an example. In this example, you want to make a memory of 2 mega locations, 2 mega addresses, and in each address you are going to have a 32-bit data. The word size is 32 bits. So altogether, in order to represent the 2 mega locations, you are having 21-bit address. Now, as I said that suppose we are not having the provision to make the big size memory. Using the small size available memory chips, you will be making it. Now, in this example, the available memory chips is of size 512K into 8. That means 512K locations, and in each location you can save 8-bit data. Okay. Now this is how we have arranged the small memory blocks, the 512K memory blocks, and we have made our requirement. Now, as I said that our requirement is to make a memory of 2 mega locations, and what we have right now is the small blocks of size 512K locations. So we will arrange the blocks in such a way that you are going to have 4 blocks. So 512K plus 512K plus 512K plus 512K plus, altogether you can have 2 mega. That means 2 mega addresses or locations. Now, so we have made 2 mega locations by arranging the memory blocks. Now our second requirement is to have in each memory location you want to have 32 bits of data, but using our available memory chip we are having 8. We can have an 8-bit size. So if you are arranging the blocks horizontally in this way, altogether we can have 8 into 4 32-bit data. So you can name the data as D7 to D0, D15 to D8, D23 to D16, D31 to D24. So finally D31 to D0, 32 bits of data. So our structure, this is how we have arranged the 512K memory blocks, and we have made a memory 2 mega locations, and in each location you can have 32 bits of data. So altogether we are having 21-bit addresses. So using the lower order 19 bits starting from A0 to A18, you will be selecting a particular location in each 4 levels. So suppose you are going to select the 100th location. The 100th locations in the first row blocks will be selected. Similarly, in the next row, in the green color row will be selected. The purple color also the 100th location will be selected. In the yellow color row also the 100th location will be selected. Now actually the location is one among the 4 rows. Now using the higher order address A20 and A19, you will be selecting any one of the blocks, either the red or green or purple or yellow. So using that higher order address, you will be selecting any one row. So inside that particular row, that corresponding memory location will be selected. So in that particular horizontal row, the first 512K memory, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, everything in a single row. So all the data can be clubbed together. So altogether you will be having a 32-bit data. This is how you make a large memory structure using the available memory chips. Now coming to the read-only memories. So this is the structure of the ROM cell. You are having a bit line, and that bit line is being connected to the power supply using a resistor, and the word line, by activating the word line, that's how you read the word line. And you are having a transistor, and that transistor its leads are connected to the bit line, word line, and one lead is connected to the ground through a fuse. Now coming to the ROM structure, if you want to store a 0, that connection P will remain there. If you want to make that value as 1, you want to store a value of 1 over there, what you will be doing this, you will be burning off that fuse, and that's how you store a 1 over there. So in the case of ROM, this data will be written by the manufacturer. Now coming to the programmable ROM, the PROM, you will be provided with the structure, and the user is having the user is being provided with the facility to whether to burn the fuse or not to burn the fuse based on his requirement. So if you want to store a 0, the fuse remains there. If you want to store a 1, you are going to burn off the fuse. Now coming to the EPROM structure, the reversible PROM structure. The structure is similar to the ROM cell, and over here you can see that you are having the transistor, in which you are having the source, drain, the gate, the MOS structure. And what you are going to have over here is that this MOS structure is having an extra floating gate, and by applying a high voltage to the floating gate, you can store the charges at near the thin oxide area. Okay, by the amount of charge you store over there, by applying a high voltage, you can make the transistor permanently off. Now the structure of the EPROM cell is similar to the ROM cell. Now as I explained, we are having a special transistor over there, and which is having the ability to function either as a normal transistor or as a disabled transistor that is always turned off. Okay, now as I said that we can make that transistor as a normal transistor or a disabled transistor by programming the transistor, by injecting the charges into the transistor. I have shown you the floating gate. Okay, when you inject the charges, it gets trapped inside the transistor, and it will be made as a disabled transistor. And as I shown you in the diagram, this memory chip, if you want to erase the data, if you want to dissipate the charges stored inside it, if you want to erase it, you want to expose this chip to a UV light. Okay, that's how the EPROM structure works. And the disadvantage over here is that if you want to erase, if you are going to erase this memory structure, all the cells inside it will get erased. You are not having a provision to individually erase a particular block or a particular cell. Now coming to the EEPROM, this PROM can be programmed and erased electrically. So without removing the block, the memory cell from the device, without removing itself, you can erase it. Why? Because you don't have to expose this to the UV light. So within the circuit itself, you can erase the data, and you can erase the cells selectively. So that is the advantage of EEPROM. So in this session, we have seen the asynchronous DRAM, the synchronous DRAM, how to make a large memory structure, and about the ROM cells. Thank you.